Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage. We're going to go over the Xbox layoffs. We probably knew that some of these were, of course, coming some more in 2026 and even in 2027. But boy, we are having a ton all at once. So I'll go through this as much as I can. We're not going to quite go through everything, but as you can see, it's a lot. And then we're going to go over why I think this ultimately happened, which I think there's really just a couple of reasons. So going to get through this. This is directly from Asha Sharma herself. Most significant restructure in Xbox history. I made the difficult decision to reduce our team by approximately 3,200 through fiscal year 2027. This will include 1,600 as of today. 4 studios will leave Xbox to new management. I recognize that a year-long restructuring creates additional challenges. Unfortunately, that is not possible to make all the necessary changes in a single day, and I want to be direct about the scale. Our business today is not healthy, operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable platforms and publishing businesses. Entering Gen 9, we were a smaller install base, higher structure cost. To grow, we bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content. We've also created a meaningful value through this, but did not grow at the pace we expected. Remember, Satya Nadella had like a bonus on how many Game Pass subscribers they would get? Well, yeah, that didn't happen. That was even back then in like 2023. As that happened, our core business weakened and we added more teams, more investment, and more time, hoping for a better outcome. And now the industry is facing the most severe hardware crisis in its history. We must reset Xbox. Basically, they heaped more on to try to get more of a pull, and it didn't happen. More doesn't always mean better. Since 2018, we have aggressively expanded our studio portfolio, while the number of games created each month across the industry now outpaces the last 10 years combined. Each month is more games made than the last 10 years combined. Just think about that. Not just from Xbox, but all of the publishers. That's crazy. And all the independents. We now find ourselves competing not only with the largest publishers, but also the smaller independent studios. Again, there's not enough money to support it all. And the best ones, they get the money. We have also learned that we are not the best home for every type of studio. In a typical year, we lost 64 cents for every dollar we invested. Oh, man, that is painful. That's really bad. Compulsion Games and Double Fine Productions will return to management and transition to independent studios with their IP catalog in runway for their next games. Ninja Theory and Undead Labs have entered terms to join new ownership with funding to complete and grow Senua and State of Decay 3. Arcane's management is beginning required consultation with its work council in France to review potential strategic options. We're also making reductions across other units, shifting investment to focus on higher priority projects. These changes vary in size across Activision, Blizzard, ZeniMax, King, Mojang, and even Xbox Game Studios. None of our first-party publicly announced games or projects are being canceled as part of these reductions. So they're publicly announced. So any that haven't been announced, maybe some of them are being canned. We won't probably find that out until later. If they are. Mojang and King will now report directly to me. These two studios have increasingly become platforms, not just games, but actual platforms to play, and are our largest by monthly active users. Second, we will reset our platform. Today, in some parts of the company, work passes through as many 14 layers of management. Oh my word, that's ridiculous. Our platform teams are 40% larger than they were at the start of the generation, even as our player base and playtime have declined. That's bad. That's not cost effective. That complexity has slowed the decisions, blurred accountability, and we will simplify. Management layers will be no more than 5 and, where possible, 3, which that is a massive reduction. We will deliver success through a flatter organization that is built around makers, player coaches, and directly responsible individuals who own key decisions and outcomes. We will streamline how we work across our tools with a cleaner code base, shared services, and 50% less reduced vendor spend, which she did say earlier that vendor spend was actually really high for the company. Third, we are resetting how we operate. For the first time, we are establishing a chief operating officer with end-to-end P&L, which is profit and loss responsibility across content, hardware, platform, and services. That's going to be Helen Chang. I apologize if I got that name incorrect. This year, we'll invest as much in Xbox as we ever have. but will invest with greater focus, greater discipline, and greater clarity, all in service of making Xbox where the world plays and creates. I want Xbox to be one of the few companies that entertains more than 1 billion people each day. Yeah. I wonder how many they have now. That's crazy. Just to give you an idea, Roblox is like 140 million a day. So 1 billion a day. Oh my word. There's only 8 billion in the world, folks. Xbox has many of the most beloved franchises in entertainment history, talented studios around the world, and we will return to growth in 2027. History is full of companies that mistake longevity for inevitability. We will not be one of them. Meaning failure, really. That's what she's hinting at. So yeah, that is her entire thing. I will link this down below so you can read this yourself if you'd wish. I also wanted to go through the 2 reasons that I think are interesting of why we've actually gotten to this point. So just as some context, there was some buying into video games with Microsoft in the 90s. Okay, we had a little bit. The ones that are highlighted are basically video game related. Well, in 2000s, we had a little bit more buying. We had actually Rare in 2002, which they've had for over 30 years. We had a little bit more in 2006, but it's still, this is mostly like software, Microsoft related, not really Xbox stuff. And then we had again in 2009, 2011, and 12, 14, 15, 16, kind of one a year at this pace, 17. And then in 18, we had quite a few acquisitions. We had PlayFab, Ninja Theory, Undead Labs, Compulsion, Playground, In Exile, and Obsidian, all in 2018. And the reason I think they did this is ultimately because they wanted to ensure exclusivity was not cutting out certain games. So they bought the studios so that they could ensure that their games were actually coming to Xbox. Because through PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4, Sony was ramping up, paying for third-party exclusivity, even though they didn't own the studios themselves. They were paying for true exclusivity where it would not go over to Xbox, and I think Xbox was feeling that. And this all generally was during Xbox One, so this is toward the end when they were getting ready for the Series X launch. And I think that's why they started doing this. 2019, they bought Double Fine, and then they also bought ZeniMax Studios in 2020. Again, we had Activision Blizzard in 2022, and then we also had Nemesis Games in 2023. So they had, and this was a very massive buy, which would be almost $83 billion today, which is crazy. But yeah, very, very expensive. But yeah, I think the reason why they started buying, what's crazy too is when you actually look between Sony and Xbox, is that Xbox starts buying, and then Sony does, like a year or two later. They start buying more studios. And I think they were, of course, onto each other. And so they're just working and going back and forth, applying more pressure. I'm buying more studios. Well, I'm buying more studios so I can have exclusivity. I'm buying more studios so I can have more games. And we've just pushed ourselves into this corner now where both companies have basically, laid off or allowed others to go independent from basically this generation alone. 10 each is roughly what we're at, which was kind of insane. So both companies are over their skis. Both companies are spending too much, and they've had to get back to business. Now, PlayStation is currently doing a better job, at least so far that we've seen. They did have a really bad quarter where their revenue, or their net revenue, was like negative $6.5 billion, which ton of money. But again, I'm sure Xbox isn't too far behind with the amount of rakes that they've stepped on. And PlayStation is stepping on a lot of rakes right now. That video will be on the end screen. But the thing, too, that I think is interesting, too, is that, we did not plan for COVID during 2020, and that really screwed up production pipelines and development pipelines for games for, 2 to 3 years. Because first we had COVID, there were lockdowns, there was remote work, which there was adjustments there. Some people, too, were also not wanting to work. We also had a lot of people leave the workforce that were very experienced, and a lot of new people that basically knew nothing coming in. And so none of that is really a recipe for success. And then what we had going afterward was supply chain issues, basically through 2024. And then, now we also have that continued inflation that's going on, wars on top of it. And then now we have the whole AI thing, which we haven't had a break since COVID started. I mean, if you're tracking that. So yeah, that's 7 years now. And it just has not been easy for a lot of companies. And there's tons of small studios and independents that have totally gone poof into the wind because, yeah, they don't even matter to be in the news. But yeah, there's been a lot of layoffs since then, and you can actually go back through Obsidian layoff tracker, and they actually have it all right there. But yeah, I wanted to share this because this probably was inevitable, and it also has been inevitable, I think, for Sony, but it's also been inevitable for EA and for Ubisoft and also for Warner Brothers to have to be completely sold over to Paramount along with all of the gaming division. Well, they tried selling the gaming division first, and nobody wanted to buy Warner Brothers gaming division, so which is kind of insane because they actually own DC and now someone else does. But yeah, it's very fascinating watching everything happening. But yeah, no one has gone unscathed, and everyone is trying to figure out exactly how to get enough money, but there's still not enough for everything, and so the pullbacks have to happen, and this is what we're seeing. And I think it sucks. I mean, losing job right now anywhere in the 2020s has been really tough and really frustrating. And being a family man and working, having to work, oh my word, man, I couldn't imagine. So, for those of you that are out there trying to find work, good luck. But honestly, too, you got to be a part of companies that respect you. You got to be a part of projects that can actually make money, and you got to do your best all the time. I mean, that's how my mentality is at my company. Because if we lose some of our customers or vendors, yeah, we're in trouble, right? We're not far off of that edge. And so, and we're competing on a global market just like these guys are. And so, yeah, I encourage you guys too, just on a personal level, if you're watching, to just think about that. Do the best that you can to leave nothing on the table. You will be screwed sometimes, but if you can help your company maintain your job, that's going to be great. But if you work for a really big one, maybe go find a smaller company like I did. I'm not worried about being replaced by AI. So yeah, that's just a very interesting thing. Thanks for tuning in. You can always like, sub, all that jazz. If you liked it, help it stay in the algorithm. I appreciate that. You can also follow me at Twitch if you'd like it. Don't tread on thee. But yeah, this is just fascinating. And again, I think we will continue to have layoffs through the 2020s, even into 2030. And we'll maybe finally start getting our footing going forward in the 2030s with the next gens. And yeah, anyway, I'll cover that when we get there. So with that, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one.